Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Sunday evening to you all. Hope you guys are doing well out there. Certainly had yourselves a fine weekend as we round it off. I got you a big update on the tropics tonight. We got some new information. They have actually increased the peak intensity of what is now Idalia out there. We have Tropical Storm Idalia right now, but this is forecast to now be 100-mile-per-hour Category 2 hurricane. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to give you the latest and greatest information from the National Hurricane Center. Talk about the latest forecast cone. Talk about what it looks like right now. Compare all the model guidance. Talk about some impacts. Even give you an update on Franklin and what's going on with him out there in the Southwest Atlantic. We're going to get you guys a lot of good information in this video. And we're going to continue to pump out this information for you guys. 2 videos a day. We're going to try to feed you all the updated information because we do know that things change hour to hour. And what we can tell you is Idalia is a little bit ahead of schedule. And I think that's why these models are catching on to a more higher end scenario. So we need to watch out for this because I think that this is going to be a significant hurricane, potentially a major hurricane, which is considered a Category 3 or higher. So with that being said, if you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. Appreciate the crazy support that I've gotten. I say crazy in a good way. The amazing support I've gotten over the last few days. Thank y'all so much for that. It means the world to me. And just welcome to the family. It's a personal type feel on this channel. Family type feel. So a little bit different. I don't have any flashy things for you guys. I'm just a dude talking about the weather in his bedroom. So if you like that kind of style, this is the channel for you folks. You guys got anything I can pray about or pray over? As always, please put it in the comments below so I can pray over it, and I promise you others will do so too. Let's get rolling. Latest update from the National Hurricane Center. Check it out. Look at the pink. That is hurricane watches up for the central panhandle of Florida, stretching all the way down south to Tampa Bay into the Sarasota area. We also got tropical storm watches up for southwest areas of Florida. And this is the latest cone, Tropical Storm Idalia. I know it's Idalia, but really it's spelled with an I. It's the dreaded I name. Idalia is how it's spelled. It's a 40-mile-per-hour tropical storm. Not moving south anymore. It's moving northeast at 3 miles per hour. So it's really getting a move on out there. Not really, but we do have a concerning setup because now, like I said, this could reach Category 2 status, okay? Forecast to be a hurricane by about 1 a.m. Tuesday. By the time we get into Tuesday afternoon, still a hurricane, and it's going to maintain and continue to be a strengthening hurricane on its approach to the western coastline of Florida, okay? We're thinking this might make a landfall sometime after midnight Wednesday into Wednesday morning. This could tweak some, but one thing that you probably notice if you live in Georgia or the Carolinas, the cone has shifted east, and that's because the model guidance has shifted east, and we'll talk about why in this video. But another way to look at this is a site called Zoom Earth. It's an excellent site. It's almost combining Google Maps with the tropics, and we can look at both on here. It's awesome, and it actually shows the cone from the National Hurricane Center on this map outline for us. So we know this is likely going to become a hurricane, like I said, by 2 a.m. Tuesday. But look at this. By 2 a.m. Wednesday, this is a strengthening hurricane, so it could be stronger than this. But the peak forecast intensity of this storm is now 100 miles per hour. That's a Category 2 hurricane. If it goes up another 15 miles per hour, then we're in major status, which is a Category 3 or higher. So this is making a beeline to the Big Bend regions of Florida. That is where but this is where the general average is, or where they're thinking this is going to make landfall. But just a reminder, the cone is not the impact zone necessarily. The cone is where this center of circulation can still go. So it could still go into the central panhandle of Florida, or they're saying it could still go just south of Tampa. Okay, so there's still a pretty wide cone up. So that tells us there's still some uncertainty. That's why it's called the cone of uncertainty. So we have this going on. This will maintain its tropical storm status riding through extreme southeast portions of Georgia as we're getting into Wednesday afternoon. Then we still need to watch the low country and coastal regions of all the Carolinas. Okay, so that's the latest information from the National Hurricane Center. Let's take a look at Idalia right now. This is Cuba, this is the Yucatan, and this is Idalia. As you can tell, we'll draw on this a little bit. Center of circulation's probably right into here somewhat. Okay, this is the center of the storm. and it's dealing with a little bit of dry air. If you look right here where you basically don't see as much white, that's a little bit of dry air that's in the Gulf of Mexico that's getting kind of entrained into this storm somewhat. So that's why we're not having any rapid strengthening right now, even though there's a very low shear environment. We're just having a gradual strengthening, but a little bit of dry air kind of getting into this center of circulation a bit is preventing sustained convection, shower and storm activity in this region. So this is why we're not having a full wrapping of these bands, and this is not rapidly intensifying or anything. There's a chance that this could rapidly intensify, though, as it gets into the eastern Gulf of Mexico. But as of now, there's just steady improvements, very steady, okay? So we expect this to strengthen somewhat over the next 24 to 36 hours, and then probably after that 24-hour to 36-hour time frame, this will begin to pick up some steam and strengthen at a pretty moderate pace. Maybe we get some what we call RI, which is considered rapid intensification. Excuse me, got a little bit of sneeze. It almost caught me off guard there. But this is it. It looks like a typical tropical storm, and it's over land. It's over the ocean. And one thing to note is that the center of circulation, the dominant vortice, is a little bit more further east. And I think this center of circulation is most likely going to work a little bit further east instead of it being kind of in this area right here and then working like a little bit further west. And I think that's why a lot of model guidance is now kind of tweaking to the east, if you will. So we have to watch this. Now we take a broader look at what's going on, right? And this basically indicates dry air in the atmosphere, okay? It's the water vapor loop. In these black areas right here, this is dry in all levels. And then we have the greens that you see in here. This is moist upper levels, but basically don't pay too much attention on that. And of course the whites, this is obviously where our tropical storm is, right? Florida right here. But if you look right into here, the black, that is dry air just north of this storm. Okay, this is getting kind of into that center of circulation, preventing any kind of big time development right now. So that is what's kind of preventing it from really taking off right now, even though it's in a pretty decently favorable area right now for some pretty decent intensification. It's just not doing it right now. But you got that symmetrical look. It is a pretty healthy looking tropical storm for the most part, and we expect this to continue to slowly, gradually strengthen over the next 24 to 36 hours. So let's compare some model guidance. Well, let's take a look at this. I want to show you this really quick. The dry air on top of the storm. You see the browns right here? This is as of right now. It shows it well. You see the dry air over the Gulf of Mexico, and then you see the rich tropical moisture associated with this low pressure along the center of circulation, that low level circulation, and then just south of it, that is the moisture associated with Idalia, okay? But if you look just north of it, you got that dry air right on top of it. That is that dry air kind of wrapping into that circulation, right? That's why we're not getting any crazy intense strengthening right now. But as we continue to move forward, this begins to strengthen. It creates its own moisture field or bubble, if you will, which basically protects that low-level circulation, even with some dry air just to its west. And this is game on at this point for at least moderate intensification to maybe rapid intensification at this point. And listen, I'm not trying to say this to scare anybody, but this has a high ceiling to it. And I honestly think the low floor, I like to say low ceiling for some reason, the floor of this is just a Category 1 hurricane. The ceiling of this is most definitely a major hurricane, Category 3 or higher. Let's compare model guys. We're going to compare, the global models with the with the hurricane models. Okay, so we'll compare the European GFS with the HAF and the HMON models. Okay, European. One thing the European has done is it's stuck to its guns with the track of this storm. It's like the Big Bend areas of Florida the entire time. And it continues to like that area. But one thing the Euro has is, I believe, a weak bias. So it likes to show a hurricane being much weaker than what it's actually likely going to be. And that'll be the case, most likely. But we're getting into Tuesday morning. We still got our tropical storm, maybe low-end hurricane right here in this area of the Gulf of Mexico. This continues to move north-northeast. At this point, Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday evening, we got 986 millibar, most likely a Category 1 hurricane. This is really close. You most likely getting some outer bands into the Tampa Bay area, Sarasota, and this entire west coast of Florida, most likely some dirty bands. And you always got to watch out for the east side of this storm. These bands can produce tornadoes and tropical storm force winds. But we continue to move this in motion here. And I mean, even the European, sometime in the wee hours of the morning, Wednesday morning, makes landfall as a 979 millibar low pressure hurricane. One would argue that might be a low end category 2 hurricane, high end category 1 hurricane. So even the weak bias Euro is starting to pick up intensity with this. Makes landfall sometime 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, Wednesday morning, continues to chug across northern Florida throughout the morning hours, rise the Georgia coastline, begins to affect the low country of South Carolina. But most model guidance now has this just off the coast where it doesn't bring any crazy impacts to especially like the eastern sections of South Carolina, but we still need to watch these areas. Okay, the further this works east, the further east this probably a very, very tight rainfall gradient works eastward. So we'll continue to watch this for sure as we move into time. With the European, I think that it will continue to show a higher end scenario. And basically, if you don't know what the millibars are, if you're saying, Mitch, millibars don't mean anything to me, the lower this number goes, the stronger the storm system. We look at the GFS, and we continue to move this forward, and we get into Tuesday afternoon. It's already got a 9. So at this point, the GFS already has a stronger system than the European does, making landfall. Already a 975 millibar low pressure hurricane. One would argue that's a high end category 1, like I said, category 2 hurricane, moving across the eastern Gulf of Mexico. Okay, we start to get into Tuesday morning, and it makes landfall, Wednesday morning. It makes landfall sometime in the same time frame. Okay, Wednesday morning, this would probably be a high end category 2 hurricane. All right, 966 millibar low pressure hurricane makes landfall in the northern sections of the Big Bend of Florida. Okay, so this is a little bit further west. The GFS has always been further west with this, but even the GFS has came east today. So we continue. This would show a concerning situation for areas like Georgia. Okay, because this still has a 982 millibar low pressure, probably strong tropical storm low-wind hurricane plowing through southeast Georgia. This is bringing tropical storm force conditions, maybe some 65, 75 mile per hour winds through southeast Georgia. This huge rain shield makes it all the way into the low country of South Carolina, central South Carolina. We're getting into Wednesday evening, and this could be a rocky night and evening, Wednesday night for South Carolina into eastern sections of North Carolina, as we still have a pretty strong system based off the latest GFS rolling through South Carolina. If you look at the last run, you notice there's a tick east, right? So this is the last 3 runs. This is the run 3 runs ago. This is the latest run. You see how it's picking up a little speed, and it's further east, so we got to watch that. And then this continues, and even bring some heavy rains into eastern North Carolina. The rainfall forecast is going to be tricky for the Carolinas. It depends on how quick this gets kicked out, and just basically how far northwest this rain shield makes it. So we look at the hurricane models. Now, guys, this is the concerning. This is the concerning thing. This is where we have to watch for a high-end scenario. The hurricane models have not backed down. They continue to show a threatening scenario. It's already a Category 1 hurricane just off the western end of Cuba. You can already tell how east it is. Okay, it's already pretty far east. We continue to work our way through time, gradual strengthening. At this point, it looks like, the HF model, this hurricane model, wants to drop it from a 972 millibar hurricane to a 958 millibar hurricane in a 3-hour period. We want to talk about rapid intensification. That's definitely what that would be considered for sure. Okay, we get into Tuesday afternoon. Look at these outer bands hitting the Tampa Bay region, the west coast of Florida. We continue to roll through this through. You got some nasty bands hitting the Tampa Bay area. And I'm just saying the Tampa Bay area. I'm not going to, Clearwater, Sarasota. Okay, but the center of circulation is far enough off the coastline to where you're just getting outer bands. But you continue to roll through this in time. Tuesday evening into the overnight hours of Tuesday nights. And then this is about 2 o'clock in the morning, Wednesday morning. And then this is knocking on the doorstep of landfall sometime Wednesday morning around 5 a.m. you have a 936 millibar low pressure hurricane. I would argue that's a high-end category 3, probably a category 4 hurricane most likely, making landfall somewhere right where the Panhandle and the Big Bend region meets. Okay, so dangerous situation. Once you get into the Big Bend areas, maybe a lot of people don't realize this, but the population somewhat drops off. You don't have a great road network than you do compared to the Panhandle. I believe there's one main highway. What highway is that? I think that's highway what? You guys correct me if I'm wrong, you Floridians. Man, it shows us like 3 different highways. Highway 19, 98, whatever that is right into there. That's kind of the main highway that rolls through that area. And all these other regions, you have to take little roads to all these smaller towns and communities into the Big Bend regions of Florida. Okay. And there's multiple areas that we'll begin to mention a lot more in name. We really know we're never going to know exactly where this is going to make landfall, but we have extreme confidence on where this is going to make landfall, right? But this is where the H-half model makes landfall, and this would be a catastrophic scenario. This would bring a Category 4 hurricane into this region of Florida, and this continues to chug through Georgia, brings hefty impacts to even North Florida. Georgia, and then this brings some tropical storm force conditions into the low country of South Carolina, the coastal regions of South Carolina, as we're getting into Wednesday afternoon. This is really speeding up in time. At one point, I thought Thursday would be the day that we need to watch out for in South Carolina, North Carolina, but it looks like it's just going to be Wednesday. This is going to pick up so much speed that, I mean, it's just going to roll into this area and roll on out. Okay, the HMON model, I mean, it's not a whole lot different, guys. We take it all the way to the Panhandle. It's a little bit further west, I would say that. So this really kind of moves into the area of, let's see, like the St. George Island region, things like that. This is the area of the Panhandle of Florida. This model moves this right into here. So this would be Apalachicola. Hopefully I pronounced it right. I pronounced it right in this morning's video. Hopefully I pronounced it right just then. Apalachicola. It moves, the HMON model wants to move this right into this region right here. And it's about the same intensity. It's even stronger than the H-half model. Makes landfall sometime Wednesday morning as around a 930 millibar low pressure hurricane. That's a Category 4 hurricane, guys. Okay, so the hurricane models are still sounding the alarm that this is going to be a significant system. Okay. So what's pulling this? We've mentioned this many times. I'll breeze through this as quick as possible. Basically what you got the low pressure. We'll take a look at the European. This is Idalia right here. We keep this moving, and basically you're going to have this upper trough that's digging down into this region. You see this little bending right into here? See how it's bending down and it kind of comes up like this? You see these little streamlines? This is kind of a short wave upper trough digging down. The main cold front is surging in from the northwest. Okay, that'll be a factor with kicking Idalia out. But this comes down and scoops old Idalia right on up and says, hey, you know, let's go for a ride. And it begins to feel those steering currents, and then it basically ejects northward. So this upper trough comes in, and you see little streamlines pointing to the northeast or northward. That is why it gets pulled into Florida instead of maybe into Texas or Louisiana. If this wasn't here, then we probably have a different track to talk about. This would probably move more so due north. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. The little upper trough comes through, and you see the blues right here. This might add a little shear to the storm too. So that's a wild card also that might prevent this from hitting that major status that we're kind of getting concerned about. So we'll get this off the screen here, and we'll see what happens here as we, come on, work with me. Look at hour 30, and we keep this moving here, and there's that upper trough. It weakens, and then the trough, basically this cold front just moves down this troughing, and then it just feels the directional pull from the troughing. And this is just typical in hurricane season. We'll get these, the later you get into the season, the more deep digging troughs you get, cold fronts you get into the south. And sure enough, here it comes. We got, I wouldn't call it an unusual trough or anything like that. In fact, this is actually going to help bring some nice air pretty far south, a cool down for a lot of folks. But this comes in and then really fills this trough then, and it kicks it on off, and you see these streamlines pointing this way. This trough comes in and really digs in, and you can feel the flow then, and it takes Idalia and kicks it on off this way. There's another thing that's steering this is this ridging right into here. You see this kind of circular motion right in here, this is actually aiding in the steering this too. And basically you kind of have a network between this trough and this ridge. And that's why if you keep these model runs going, it actually just moves the rest of Idalia basically west to east instead of kicking it way out here and affecting areas maybe more of the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast, things like that. So felt like I explained that a little bit better in last night's video or this morning's video, but there you are. Latest information as far as impacts. Rainfall has increased. We expected this. Tallahassee, they're going for 6 to 10 inches of rain. Areas in orange, that is 6 to 10 inches of rain. Yellow, that is 4 to 6 inches of rain. So this is from the National Hurricane Center. Another way to look at this is the blend of all models. It's rainfall between now and next Sunday morning. I think with the quickness of this system, I think we're going to get a lot of rain, but I don't think we're going to get as much rain as we typically see with a tropical system. This thing is going to really pick up some speed once it gets into the eastern Gulf of Mexico, and it's going to hit Florida and then move into Georgia very fast. I really think it is. In fact, I already showed you, it's going to make landfall Wednesday morning in Florida. By the time we're getting into maybe Wednesday evening, this is heading off the coast of South Carolina potentially. Okay, but, you got 5-6 inches of rain showing up in the central panhandle all the way down to the Big Bend regions. And we got 6 to 7 inches of rain showing up around Sarasota, Clearwater, into Tampa Bay region. Okay, we move a little bit further up. Now, I'm going to tell you, some of this rain is from a stalled out frontal boundary. It's raining like crazy at my house right now. I can hear it. It's raining in a lot of areas in the Carolinas right now, even areas of Georgia. So some of this rain is picking up from is rain that could potentially fall tomorrow and Tuesday. And then it picks up on the tropical moisture from Idalia that rides up through Georgia. So rainy next few days for sure. But there's a light at the end of the tunnel for all you folks I'm showing you on this map. I really think there's the potential for September 1st or Friday to be a beautiful early fall-like day. And we'll talk about that here in the coming videos. But we continue to move forward here. This is Franklin. This is Idalia. The chances for tropical storm force winds into the Big Bend region has now increased to around 70 to 80% chance. But this is going to continue to increase, guys. I can show you this until the cows come home. But, this is going to increase. And eventually they're going to start showing the chances of hurricane force winds instead of tropical storm force winds. Because it's pretty much all but certain that this is heading towards Florida and at minimum going to be a Category 1 hurricane. But the time frame to see tropical storm force winds, you could start to see it in Key West as early as tomorrow afternoon with some outer bands. By the time you're getting into Tuesday morning, you're seeing it in and around just north of the Tampa Bay region. By the time you get into overnight Tuesday night, you're seeing tropical storm force conditions already moving in. Okay, and then by the time you're into like Tuesday p.m., some of these outer bands could be producing tropical storm force winds as far north as South Carolina. It's very possible. We'll see what happens. I think it's just a possibility of seeing it. So that's winds like 35. That's winds like 40 to 45 miles per hour. So you can get these in just your typical thunderstorms, right? So they're saying with some of these bands to start to move in, you can start to see that in South Carolina as early as Tuesday night, Georgia Tuesday night, and South Carolina Tuesday night and Wednesday morning. So we continue to move forward here. We look at the storm surge. The Big Bend region is very prone to storm surge. Okay, this is definitely an area that's one of the most concerning flood-prone, storm surge-prone areas in the entire state of Florida. And really one of the biggest regions is really because it's right in the armpit of Florida here. All the water just gets pushed into this one little corner. So right now there's an estimated 7 to 11 feet of storm surge for the red area. Okay, this entire region. You could potentially get 3 to 5 feet of storm surge into the Tampa Bay region, and then even maybe 1 to 3 feet of storm surge into Key West. Okay, this will change. Okay, that's why it's important to stay up to date with this information, guys. So. All right, we worked our way through that. Let's give you an update on Franklin out here. Franklin is a very strong storm. It is a 100 mile per hour hurricane, Category 2 hurricane, Bermuda right here. It's still kind of chugging in kind of a westernly motion, but it will begin to really, it'll probably continue to move in a northwest for a while, and then it'll eventually turn north and abruptly turn northeast where it will get very close to Bermuda. But this is Hurricane Franklin. It seems like it's been around in the same area for days now, but it is finally picking up some speed. Will become a major hurricane most likely tomorrow. Okay, Bermuda right here, you're out of the cone, but you're going to have a gigantic hurricane just to the north of you guys by the time you get into about midweek. It's moving north-northwest at 8 miles per hour, so it's already kind of began that more of that northern jog to it. And if we look at the H-half model with this, you see Bermuda right here. It comes up on your screen. Big time hurricane right here, category 3 or 4 hurricane. But look, you guys get missed by the H-half model, and you might get some outer bands, but the brunt of the storm, 99% of the storm misses you guys. You might get some rain showers, some gusty winds, certainly some gusty winds at minimum from this, but it looks like you guys are going to get missed. Now, you look at the European from this, right? It gets very close to Bermuda, but it still misses. But it actually gives you guys some precipitation if the European is correct. But if you're in Bermuda, I had a couple people comment saying they were. I say this storm is most likely going to miss you guys to the north Wednesday. Okay, so that's pretty much all I got. As we are getting into tomorrow, we'll start to talk more specifics on wind speeds for certain areas, but I thought about showing that in this tonight's video. But guys, it's going to fluctuate a lot. Basically, the core of these hurricanes, the strongest winds are right there near the center of circulation. Those are the winds that cause devastating and catastrophic damage, and we need to figure that one out, and we will over the next couple of days. That's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all.